Shriver, designer of the Flame Crester. Cresting arrows dates back several hundred years. Archers all over the world marked and crested their arrows for identification. Cresting can be simple markings or elaborate designs and colors. Today I'd like to show you two methods of flame cresting. So let's crest some arrows. Today I'd like to show you two cresting methods using the flame cresting templates. There are three templates with figures and shapes that can be burned or paint crested onto wood arrows or paint crested onto carbon arrows in any combination or pattern. We will demonstrate both methods of cresting with the templates with a torch, paint pens, and permanent markers, and the combination of both methods to produce beautiful, unique arrows. The templates can also be used to paint crest on carbon arrows. You can paint crest directly on the bare carbon shaft and be done, or you can dip in an oil-based polyurethane or use spray can polyurethane to protect the paint cresting if so desired. These are the items you will need if you're going to flame crest and paint crest. Cresting templates, 150 grit sandpaper, 4/0 steel wool, disposable gloves, some type of torch for your burning, a pencil, tape, damp cloth, paper towels, small rule for measuring, your choice of colors of oil-based paint pens. I use Sharpie fine and extra fine points, available at the hobby store or on Amazon.com. Oil-based paint thinner or mineral spirits, and oil-based polyurethane for your finish. The first thing we need to do is to adjust the template to fit the shaft. The template will fit a 23/64 shaft down to small carbon arrows. You adjust it by gently pinching it together or gently spreading it apart and making it fit snug on the shaft. Before you start burning your arrows, you will need to practice your burning technique. Adjust the torch to a medium flame. You will use the tip of the flame to do your burns. It is best to practice on the same type of wood that you will be making your arrows from. Soft woods like cedar, spruce, pine, and fir require less heat to burn than hardwoods like ash or hickory. I use the term burn, but all you want to do is just scorch the surface of the wood to give it a burnt look. When you're burning, use short, brush-like strokes to complete your burns. Each time you make a burn, you need to quickly remove the template and cool it with a damp cloth so you can continue to handle it. Then continue with your burning. If you make a mistake and get the template too hot and scorch the shaft under the template, you can use a small piece of sandpaper and steel wool to remove or lighten the scorch mark on the shaft. When you feel confident with your burning technique, you are ready to start your arrows. You will need to cut your arrows to length, straighten the arrows, then taper the point and knock ends. Then sand the entire length of the arrow shaft. I use 150 grit sandpaper first, then I use 4/0 steel wool for an extra smooth finish. When I sand and use steel wool or handle the bare arrow shafts, I wear disposable gloves to keep the oily fingerprints off the arrow shafts. After you have prepared your arrow shafts, you are ready to crest. To reference where your feather placement will be on your arrow shaft, use one of your old arrows. Use a pencil to mark on the arrow shaft. First thing to mark is the location of your knock index. You will use this mark as a reference when burning or painting the first individual figure on the shaft. You do this so when you glue on your knock, the cresting pattern will be aligned and uniform on each arrow shaft. Your pattern can be as simple or as elaborate as you want. You are the designer. We'll start with flame cresting. This is a quick and easy way to crest your arrows. After you have finished with your burning, take a dry cloth or paper towel and wipe off the burn areas to remove any residue. You can use stain or permanent marker to add color on bare wood. After you complete your burning, check your arrows for straightness and straighten if needed. You are now ready to prepare the shafts for paint cresting. You will need to dip your arrows with an oil-based finish. I use Minwax fast-drying oil-based polyurethane clear semi-gloss. The paint pens are oil-based and will be compatible with the oil-based poly. I dip the arrows 2 to 3 times. The smoother the surface, the cleaner and sharper your paint lines will be. When I dip, I only wait approximately an hour between dips, so you will not need to sand or steel wool between dips. This procedure will build up the finish quick without a lot of labor. After you have achieved the desired finish, allow the finish to dry 24 hours or more. The finish needs to be completely dry before you use the paint pens. If the finish is not completely dry, it will clog the paint pen tip and render it useless. Before you start to paint with your template, you will need to apply tape to each end of the template. I use 2 pieces of masking tape under each end. The tape will raise the template so it does not make contact with the arrow shaft. If the template is not raised and is making contact with the arrow shaft, the paint will flow under the template and spread. Before you start paint cresting on your good arrows, I recommend you practice your technique on one of your old finished arrows first. After the finish is completely dry, you are ready to paint crest your arrows. When I am painting the figures, I do one figure at a time. I use the clamp that is provided with the templates to aid in keeping the template from moving. Then I set the shaft aside and move to the next arrow shaft in order to let the arrow dry. Continue this rotation of painting until you are finished with all the arrows. The paint is dry to touch in about 10 minutes. If you want to paint lines around the arrow shaft, you can paint one or all 3 at one time. Use the clamp, paint a line or lines, then rotate the template a quarter turn. Take the clamp off when you rotate or it will scratch the arrow shaft. Repeat until the lines connect. If you make a mistake while painting, you can use a paper towel and a little paint thinner to remove the semi-dry paint. The eraser on a pencil will also work for corrections. When I'm using the paint pens, I will dip the pen tip in paint thinner from time to time, and then wipe the tip off on a cloth or paper towel to keep the paint from building up and drying on the pen tip. After you are done with your pen, clean the tip and be sure to snap the cap on tight. After the paint is dried for at least 12 hours, I dip the arrows to protect the paint. Allow to dry 24 to 48 hours. You are now ready to glue on nocks and fletch. Be creative and have fun, be safe, and shoot straight.